Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Jesse, and I love books. Probably more than I should. Today I'm starting a series on my channel where I tackle the quest to find underrated books. I've had this on my mind for a minute as someone who is actively trying not to just read popular books and bestsellers. And no, not just because I want to be different from everyone else. I'm doing this because of the fact that I feel like there are just so many books out there that are overlooked. And I want to be intentional. What was that? And I want to be intentional about picking up books that don't get a lot of love. I want to take those books and give them love. Boom, boom, pow. I'm going to explode them with a love bomb. I feel like there are a lot of hidden gems out there that are waiting to be discovered, and I would like to be the one to discover them. So that's why I'm kicking off this series today. I feel like we all have different ideas as to what we consider an underrated book, but the way that I'm approaching this and kind of the criteria I had in picking up these books is that I picked out books that had under 500 ratings on Goodreads at the time of filming this. To me, that just feels like a good starting point. I picked out 3 books for this first video because that feels manageable to me, and the first book that I'm going to tackle is The Master of Dreams. Master of Dreams currently has 102 ratings on Goodreads, and it's the first in a trilogy. The story is about a guy who witnesses a shooting in a strange shop in Manhattan, and quickly his reality shifts into a dream state as he begins to travel through several different realms, attempting to outrun a dark force that is chasing after him. This is my first pick. Let's get to it. Time for reading. I didn't think I'd have the wizard from The Wizard of Oz ruined for me this year, but we'll get to that in a minute. The Master of Dreams. This was a book where I was just waiting the whole time for something to grab me and hold my attention and get me through the book. There were blips in the story that were intriguing and fun, but for the most part it fell into this place where this main character is just kind of meandering about. Not a lot going on other than meandering. The story is about him kind of trying to figure out what is going on with this Master of Dreams and trying to get to the bottom of like why he's being taunted by him and being hunted by him essentially. Each place he visits, which are not at all dream states necessarily, like they are like dreams, but they're like places that we're familiar with. Like we've got Casablanca, we've got Oz, we've got Camelot. They are technically dream states, but I just thought they were going to be like his own dream creations. And that was not it. We visited these like very familiar places. Anyway, each place that he visits, he has a specific goal. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit. Was that too low? That might have been too low. Low. And instead of making it this interesting, mysterious, adventurous, action-packed, puzzle piece here, puzzle piece there situation, it's literally just us following the main character talking to everyone around him about the things that he needs to do and how he's going to achieve these things and what he needs to do next. It's boring! I guess it felt very tell not show a majority of the way through, but like we did see the things that were happening, but like the things that were happening were just uninteresting, and we're in the most interesting of places. We're in Camelot. We're in Oz. Hello? What was even more sad to me is when you reach the end and the payoff doesn't pay off. You get snubbed. You thought you got tickets for a specific movie, but a little switcheroo happens and you see a different movie instead. It was the most lackluster ending, which I guess was to be expected because building up to that, like I was pretty bored reading this book. The most interesting thing about this book were the interesting places we got to go. I wasn't expecting to visit Oz, which speaking of Oz, let's talk about the wizard because he was ruined for me in this book. Well, there was one aspect of him that like I was kind of jealous of. I actually don't know if I'm jealous of, but anyway, he can just like consume books. Like he can just like take a book and just have it be like transported into his mind. That's so nice, but also like, is that nice now that I'm thinking about it? Because like for me, part of my love of reading is just like the process of like sitting down and reading the book and like taking it in. And I think that kind of just like takes out the magical aspect of the book. The fact that he can just like take a book and be like, boom, it's in my head. I don't know if that's as magical as I thought it was in the moment. Cause like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe that's not as enjoyable of a process as I thought. Then also, he's a perv who objectifies women. I did not like this version of the Oz. What do you want? I need a queen, said the Wiz. He looked long and hard at Glinda, then nodded his head as if he'd made a decision. This one will do as well as any if she'll agree to wear low-cut blouses and short, tight miniskirts. Not this book making the Oz a perv. I do not like this version of the wizard. I don't want to say that I hated this book per se because there were some fun elements. I did like the blending of a guy from our world into these fantastical places, these fantastical realms, because that blend together was very humorous at times and just added a lot of fun to the overall experience of the story. I liked... I'm thinking of trying to think of positives. And I'm really struggling. I was literally about to say, like, I liked being in Oz and Camelot, but like, I've already mentioned that. Those are positive things. I don't have anything else to say that's positive, which is really sad. Like, I was sitting here thinking of more positive things to say, and I was gonna bring up the different places we went to, and then I also had like more negative thoughts pop in my head, which I will just say now, because I already mentioned the cool places we got to go in this book. Like, that was fun. I liked that. But there was like a lack of motives, a lack of explanations. I remember like at the start, boy kills a demon with a pitchfork and it just like vanishes without question. Speaking of questions, the ending answers no questions, which I am all about open-ending endings, but you've got to kind of give me something to go off of if you are going to give me open-ending endings. And I understand that this is the first in a trilogy. This is book 1 of the Dreamscape trilogy, so maybe the questions will be answered in book 2 and book 3, but I personally am not willing to read book 2 and book 3 to answer my questions. That is not happening for me. I personally cannot recommend this one unless you feel like the negative things that I said are things that you can like overlook or things that you like in books, then like, yeah, go for it. I'm seriously trying to be too nice. I'm struggling. I'm trying to be too nice, and I just need to stop. I just need to accept the fact that this book did not work for me, and that it's okay that I don't recommend it. It's okay, Jesse. It's okay. That's where I'm gonna end the journey with the Master of Dreams. It wasn't for me. We're saying goodbye to that. This video is not starting out great, but just to give you an idea, Master of Dreams, I would give a 2 out of 5 stars. Next in my stack for this video, I have this book called Face. At the time of filming this video, this book has a total of 268 ratings on Goodreads. This is a dystopian story that takes place in a world where presenting yourself in a perfect image is very important. Sounds very inspired by the society that we live in. From what I gather, this is a virtual world and it's very competitive. And the competition is all based on how you present yourself physically and how people like you. Again, this is a dystopian story, so my guess is that there are people that start to resent this idea and this society that they live in, and they start to turn their backs on it and twist things around and try to live their lives authentically. I don't know, we'll see what happens. It's time for reading. I will update you with my thoughts as I finish it. Plant gonna make it look like there's thorns popping out of my head. Should I adjust? Let's adjust a little bit. Much better. Not me getting ready to talk about a book that dissects aesthetics and visuals and then being like, oh no, it's gonna look like there's spikes coming out of my head, as if it matters. Y'all, unfortunately, we have another miss. This book was just not it. It's not a book that I hated, and there were aspects of it that I like that I will talk about, but for a book that is so heavily focused on visuals and aesthetics, it really missed its opportunity to explore and discuss these really interesting things surrounding living in a superficial world and breaking down these ideas of why we feel like we need to present ourselves in a perfect light, or why we feel the need to like change ourselves to fit in with society. I just feel like it really missed its opportunity to have these really interesting discussions that we can relate to, because we live in a world that's pretty similar to this one. Obviously this one is like very heightened, but I don't know, we could lead to a point where it's similar to this. Albeit I did like kind of the message of this one, and I liked the ideals that were brought up. It is more about the idea of being in this society that holds you back from being who you want to be, and not just being looked and categorized as an object. Because all of the characters are sort of put into that box within this novel. They're not seen as humans that have emotions and feelings. In fact, they're kind of ripped of that right, and are all just kind of painted as objects within this society. Honestly, it's... oh... shake, shake, shake. Honestly, it's not a book that I like hated. It's just not a book that I loved either, and I'm not even in the middle ground with this book either. Like, I more so didn't like it than I liked it. Every little movement I make, this shakes behind me. That's annoying. Sorry about it. I liked some, keyword some, of the world that was presented and the concept behind it. I liked the idea of this society that is just trying to be so perfect and making sure they have this perfect image that they are presenting. Again, that is very much so mirroring the society that we live in, so it was kind of revealing reading this and being like, yeah, a lot of this feels similar. It's just scarier, and I just hope we're not heading down this path. This book just like made me consistently think about social media, and I know that not everybody does this, but like people aren't just like throwing up pictures randomly on social media or random videos. Like, everybody is in control of what they're putting up, and they're in control of what people are seeing, so it's easy for somebody to kind of like paint up this perfect image. And even when people are like trying to be like messy, Like, there's some curation behind that. There's some intention behind that. There's thought that goes into those posts as well. I'm not saying always, I'm not saying everyone does this, but I feel like a lot of people do. A majority of the people do. And it's just fascinating to think about because sometimes you're not even seeing like the real person's personality. You're just seeing like a curated version of themselves. And then like sometimes you'll meet the person in person and they're nothing like what they show of themselves online. And that is a fascinating experience in and of itself. And of course the question is, why are people doing this? But I think it's just the society that we live in. It's the standard that's been set, and so people are following it. It's sad. We live in a sad world. Anyway, I'm not here to go deep into a hole with that. Oh my goodness, I felt myself spiraling just then. Caught myself pulling myself out of the hole. Goodness. I did like the elements in here where we saw people start to question themselves and sort of question the way that they were living and if that's how they really wanted to live. Even though one of the situations where a character was kind of starting to question themselves and show more of their human side was through masturbation. When that was first brought up for this character, I think his name is Jason. Is that his name? Jason, is that your name? I have memory issues, so I can't remember. Jake, aka Minial 637000578. I thought it was just gonna be like a piece of his personality, a piece of the puzzle into him exploring his human side, but it like became a big part of his character and was brought up constantly. It kind of swallowed his whole storyline, so there's that. I did like the writing style a lot. The author did a fantastic job of making these characters feel very robotic because when you think about it, these characters are so focused on, you know, the image that they're presenting. So they're putting all their time and energy into that. And because of that, they don't have any interest outside of it. So it like drains them of any kind of personality. And I will say that I think that that writing style will probably turn off a lot of people in reading this book, which I completely understand. It's very dull, but it also is very fitting for the situation. Okay, the downfall. First up is the world. I did mention that I liked some of the world and the concept behind it, and I stick to that, but I felt confused a majority of the time reading it, and I had a hard time kind of wrapping my mind around the face system that was set into play. It's very layered, and that part of it just felt very chunky and clunky. Then there's this weird story structure that came into play that I was so confused by, and I felt like really held this book back, but you get different point of views of different conversations that have taken place, which just didn't make any sense, so it just kind of falls into this like very repetitive place because you're just seeing the same conversations happen and the same situations happen, but just through different point of views. And I did not understand this choice. It made me so sad because again, I feel like this book had so much potential, and that's an element that like really held it back from like moving forward. In some ways, I can understand the thought behind this being a good idea because you get to see it in the minds of these different characters and how they're feeling about the conversations and situations that are coming up, but it was a hindrance in pushing the book forward. And I feel like it could have been so much better without that element. The last part here is hard for me because I liked the writing style. I genuinely thought it was fitting for the situation, but because of that like dryness factor and that sort of roboticness to the characters, you have a hard time carrying or latching yourself onto any character. And I just felt like we needed something to tie us to the characters and something to make us feel for them. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. I think I'd give Face a 2.5 out of 5 stars. That feels fitting. I think that feels fitting. This video is making me question my rating system. Is it a 2.5 or would it be like lower than that? But I didn't dislike it as much as I disliked The Master of Dreams. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll process that later. The next book that I am reading is The Holver Alley Crew. At the time of filming this video, this book has 383 ratings on Goodreads. It's a fantasy book that follows these brothers who were born into a life of crime, and that's all that they've ever known, but they've done a flip and have kind of changed the course of their lives, and they are now living more of a normal life rather than a life filled with crime. They're doing their best to stay out of trouble, but then a fire hits their neighborhood and just completely demolishes their business, their homes, just the life that they have created for themselves has gone up in flames. So they're in this situation where they have no home, they have no money, and they've got this debt that they need to pay off. So they end up forming this crew of people who have all been affected by this fire, and they take on this heist situation. It goes beyond that though, because in doing this heist, I believe something is revealed about the fires, and the brothers are now looking for revenge. They want to find the people responsible for the fire and take them out. I'm looking forward to this one. I love a little crew moment, and I love a heist as well. So let's get into it. Time for reading. Oh, this is gonna be the most underwhelming part of the video. You know when you read a book and you just feel fine. That's all you feel. You're like, that was fine. I'm fine with that. It's fine. That was my experience with the Holver Alley Crew. It was fine. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I landed right here on the line. The fine line. I know that people often do this when there is a book with like this crew of misfits and they go on a heist and they instantly compare it to Six of Crows. Like there were books about misfits getting together and having a heist before Six of Crows came to the scene, but it's like Six of Crows brainwashed all of us into thinking that it's the only book with a found family misfit situation where they go on a heist. And so reading this book just brought me back to Six of Crows. Is it anything like Six of Crows? No. Other than the fact that we have a crew that gets together and they go on a heist. I guess also on top of that is like the banter between this like found family misfit situation that also is very reminiscent of Six of Crows. So I'm trash. Six of Crows trash. Absolute trash. Here's the thing. While I found this book to be, you know, fine, look up the word fine in the dictionary and you will find this book. It is the best book that I read within this video. Though I will not stand here and just like highly, passionately recommend it. Not today. Not on my watch. I have no watch. After doing some research on this book, I found out that the world within this book is connected to other books and other series by the same author. So if you're somebody that like really loves this like kind of big universe with all these different characters that connect and show up in different books and whatnot, then I would definitely recommend checking out this author and the books that all fit into this little universe, because that can be fun. Like I love when books kind of connect and you have different characters popping up that you've seen before. The positives that I have to say about this book are things that I've already mentioned. Like I loved the crew that was formed. I thought that them coming together was just so much fun, and I just loved kind of the mixing and mashing of all these differing personalities. Not only do they have amazing banter together, but they also work well together, and they all have a very common goal. Is the lighting getting brighter? I think it is. Let's go down a level. We're down a level. The mystery aspect, although I would not consider this book like a mystery book, there are mysterious elements that come into play, obviously. Those are the things that kind of kept me intrigued and kept me sticking it out to the end with this book, because I feel like the author just did such a good job of planting these seeds for what was to come. I think the author really nailed it. Outside of it, I don't really have any complaints, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a book that planted the seed of love in my heart. It was very much so an enjoyable reading experience, but it's not a book that I can stand here and say that I am like so fired up about and feel very passionate about and want everybody to read it. It's just a book that plopped into my life. I read it, I liked it, but it's not one that I think that I will continue to think about down the line. Like it was a very one and done situation. I think I'm giving this book a 3-star rating. Is that right though? This video has me literally rethinking my star rating system. But I just have other books that I liked more that I gave 3 stars. I don't know! Not the star rating crisis. Oh no! I'll make another video discussing this. At least I have inspiration for another video. Lord help me. This video definitely did not go as planned. I was hoping that I would read one of these books and it would blow my mind and I'd be so excited about it and I'd be able to like shout its greatness from the rooftops and we'd all be excited about a new book that's underrated and we would make it a banging book. Unfortunately, these were all just fine. In fact, honestly, it kind of went from bad to decent to fun. Like that's kind of the experience I had. If I were to recommend any of these books, I would say it'd be either of these two. Like Face is an interesting read and I enjoyed my time reading it. While it wasn't all that I wanted it to be or all that I hoped it to be, it is a book that got me thinking about our society and our obsession with aesthetics and the way we look, and seeing that be reflected in this book was really cool, and kind of exploring that idea was really fun. There were just things that obviously made this not that great of a book for me. And then the whole virality crew. This book was freaking fun. I enjoyed my time reading it. It's just not a book that like wowed me. It's not a book that blew my mind. It was just all right. It was fine. Fine. I'm not giving up on this journey though. Like I might make this a series on my channel where I just continue to read books that have under 500 ratings. Maybe I'll up that a little bit. Maybe like under 700 or 800 ratings. Maybe under 1,000 ratings is still considered underrated. What are your thoughts though? Like what do you consider to be an underrated book? Also, if you have any recommendations for me for books that have, we'll go with under 1,000 ratings. Books that have under 1,000 ratings that you think are a great book and deserve more attention, drop those titles down below in the comments. I'm willing to give some of your recommendations a try. Maybe the comment section of this video is where I will curate my stack of books for the next Quest for Underrated Books video. I really do hope that the next episode in this new series, apparently this is going to be a series I'm doing, that I will find a hidden gem, because that's the whole point of this, is that I find books that are underrated, that are really good, that I want to be excited about recommending. I'm just disappointed in this, but again, the journey continues. I will keep fighting the good fight to find books that need more love, that need more appreciation, and I will report back to you in the next episode. Let me know down below in the comments all your thoughts on this though. Should I do more? Should I give up on it? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.